Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and I've got a bit of a problem for you. Well, actually, we've got a bit of an ongoing problem, and it involves a class of heroes, a type of hero that I've brought up several times in the past now. And although some of you will immediately dismiss my very valid concerns as he's just a Wolverine stan, he's obsessed with this small Canadian dude who smells like syrup, and so that's why he's saying this. No, seriously. Like 4 months ago, before the X-Men update that brought us Tier 3 Wolverine, who was great for like a minute, and Sabretooth, who's still a solid villain, and Warpath and Juggernaut, I made at least one video saying how garbage the combat class was. And something that I didn't realize about how garbage the combat class is how many, if you take a look here, how many combat characters, and it may owe to the fact that we have 57 of them in total, but how many of them have gotten their level 70 upgrade and they're still garbage? Yeah, like half. Like more than 25, which is actually exactly 25, which is pretty insane. And it's basically the same old story. Netmarble clearly knows how to make, for those of you that, aren't really sure what I'm talking about, the combat class by and large sucks. But the weird thing is, very weird indeed, Netmarble knows how to make combat characters good. They know how to make combat characters great. They know how to make combat characters absolutely, pretty much borderline overpowered, aka OP. Why is it that Captain America gets not one, but two, you can basically call it three really good uniforms, because his Infinity War uniform was a huge bump up for him. He got, priority iframes, huge damage, of course, the best tier 3 stat bump in the game. That's kind of a big deal. Still to this day, he holds the #1 stat boost of any character in the game, whereas Wolverine is all the way at number like 14 or 15. So Infinity War was amazing for Cap. Endgame, or his team suit, was also amazing for him. Round 1, like the original Endgame before any of the reworks back in April, when basically no other character got a dope uniform except him, Thanos, and Ronan. And then they do it again, and they make him even stronger. Like, if you guys didn't see my Twitter, I'll throw it up now, but people in my alliance are capping 3.5 million points in ABX with Captain America with a CTP of energy. And I saw that post in my alliance chat, and I was so happy about it. And I was thinking, wow, that's really great. Captain America's so good. He doesn't even need a CTP of rage, so you can build him with an energy, or you can even build him with destruction or something for more PvP focus, and still get a decent score in ABX. If you're not pushing it that hard or whatever. But you don't need a CTP of rage. Whereas even before the changes, if you wanted to even sniff 3.5 million, you had to use a CTP of Rage on Mr. Fantastic. Now, they're a bit different. One has a uniform, one doesn't, but there is a colossal power gap between even a tier 2 level 60 Captain America and pretty much every other combat character in the game. Like, we have some notable exceptions. Molten Man is actually pretty good, but even then, the fact that we have to say characters like Molten Man and Minerva are really good shows us how bad the combat class really is, that we celebrate these champions so hard. Even though if Molten Man was a blast type, he would be a lot worse. And you can see that in a character like Hydro Man and Iceman. Because they're not absolutely insane, they get forgotten so easily because the blast class is so full of extremely powerful, ultra bombs. Like just go down the list of non-tier 3 characters who are blast types that are absolutely amazing. Scarlet Witch, Cable, Strife, Gambit. We're just talking like absolutely stone cold killers. Psylocke. You could put Weapon Hex there. Iron Man's probably there at tier 3. The list is humongous, right? You take some of the mid-level characters who are blast types, like even Rescue. Rescue's amazing. Who does the combat class have? Compare Rescue, who's a premium character, to Crescent. Yeah. That's a sad fucking comparison. One of those characters is absolute trash and basically only exclusively used for her leadership. The other character is good enough to solo pretty much all content in the game, not necessarily at a high level, but you've got a character that's got AoE damage and single target damage, clones, it's like summons for additional DPS, healing, attack speed, like iframes, immunity, self buffs. What more do you need? Crescent has, I mean, Crescent does have a lot of those things. She's got a heal, she's got self buffs, she's got immunity, she's even got reflect, I believe, and I believe she also has accumulation. And then somehow the character still sucks. So there's obviously a huge design, and I've said this before, but it begs saying again. You know, it's really weird when you compare those two characters, for example, because they have pretty much the same abilities in terms of, you know, pretty much all of Crescent's skills have some sort of text. Whether it's reflect, whether it's a heal with penetration and ignore defense, whether it's a guard hit and all speed down, whether it's immunity and accumulation, you know, she literally has additional text on every single skill. Why is she trash when someone like Rescue isn't? It's not really because of the persistent heal that Rescue has. It really comes down to the design philosophy. Blast type characters get tons of iframes. Blast type characters, and even to an extent, universal and speed type characters. Pretty much every class except combat types, they get iframes. They get skills that move them around the battlefield. Look at Iron Man's skills. He moves around. I mean, some of the new ones he doesn't because they've changed them. But even before, his fourth skill had movement. His third skill has movement. Invisible Woman, same thing. You've got really meta abilities like Mind Control and Charm that are almost exclusive to blast types, but also find their way a little bit into pretty much every class except combat. Now they're starting to get a little bit better about it in really small doses. You know, Molten Man has Paralyze, and that applies to world bosses. It's a 2-second Paralyze, so you can see that as kind of a mini you know, a mini mind control, and you do have all defense down on all Juggernaut, Sabretooth, and Warpath, all of the latest and most recent combat types before Molten Man, so they are getting better in small doses with abilities here and there. But the thing that the combat class really lacks is any reasonable identity. They don't have high HP and healing across the board. They don't have enough iframes to compete with any of the other types, combat, against speed, blast, or universal. They don't deal enough damage to compete because they'll be out DPS'd by usually blast types, but also universal types. And then, so that's basically everything that's there. If you don't have enough iframes, you're going to need a ton of HP and healing, which most combat types unfortunately don't have. Again, they're giving more recently, like both Juggernaut and Sabretooth got healing. Molten Man doesn't, Minerva doesn't, but you know, we have some here and there. On average, you'd say more combat types have healing. You've got Wolverine, you've got Groot, you've got Hulk, you've got Lizard, you got Sandman with the self-healing when he drops those things. Apocalypse has healing. Blade has healing on his leadership. Carnage got the blobs as well. Even, you know, really bad characters like I mean, I think Titania has a heal even. Yeah, so there is some, again, there's a small sprinkle, but it feels as though whoever has executive power, or whoever is the lead developer for the combat class, or for all four types of characters in general, just hates the combat type, or doesn't know or doesn't want to, you know, make them good, because in general they're not. They're actually quite terrible. Hulkbuster also has a heal, but yeah, it doesn't really make sense to me, and they're still bad. And you know, it's compounded. It's definitely worse now because the blast types are so dominant. You know, PvP is being hounded by Jean Grey, hounded by Doctor Strange as well. And these two characters really make it difficult for combat types to really do anything. Strife has really like negated any combat character's ability to do anything in PvP, because Strife is not only has the type advantage, but he has Fracture. So the one thing that combat types have, healing, he gets rid of. So literally this one character counters an entire class of characters. Strife can literally 1v1 any combat character in the game, and he will win 9 times or 10 times out of 10. Now, Strife is a very good 1v1 PvP character. That's true. But can you say that about any other character against any other class? Like, is Captain Marvel able to 1v1 defeat every single other character from the speed class, or from the combat class, or from the blast class, right? And so on and so forth. Not really, not necessarily. And Strife isn't even at his maximum power level. He doesn't have a uniform. He doesn't have a tier 3. Imagine how much worse it's going to get. The other thing I was thinking about is how can it get better when it can clearly get worse? It seems like it's only going to continue to get worse for combat types. And I honestly, at this point, I don't know what Netmarble is going to do, because so many combat types need a facelift, and blast types continue to get more powerful. When people heard that Blade was getting a movie for San Diego Comic-Con. When Marvel Future Fight fans heard, they lost their minds because Blade's been so shit for so long. There's so many beloved combat types that are absolutely garbage. Drax, every comic book fan loves Drax. People like Rhino as a pretty classic, Spider-Man villain. Everybody loves Black Panther as well. Agent Venom or Anti-Agent Venom, everybody loves that. The OG Venom, everybody loves him as well. There's so many combat types that are beloved, and yet they don't get any love in this game. Don't even get me started on Hulk and Red Hulk. The list is literally endless. There is not a class in Marvel Future Fight that has more beloved characters. Like Hulk is one of the all-time beloved characters in the game, and he's never been meta in Marvel Future Fight. Not even once. I mean, he was close to meta with Ragnarok. Close. For like a minute. And then guess what happened 2 updates after Ragnarok? That's right, Adam Warlock came and took a fat shit on Hulk. What do you want? There's literally no end to this. Every time you look at a combat type, right around the corner, a blast type comes to slap him down and completely, erase and negate their value. So I honestly don't know. I think top to bottom, Netmarble needs to make some sweeping changes. I would love it, and I would even personally, help them and whatever. If I'm part of the Star Agent program, check it out in terms of seeing the beta of it, seeing the unreleased version of it. If they would just take the entire combat class and just rework it top to bottom. You can leave Captain America off that list. You can probably leave Mr. Fantastic off that list. But honestly, even at this point, Wolverine needs help. Pretty much everyone besides Captain America, Mr. Fantastic, and Minerva, and maybe Molten Man can be left out. But literally everyone else needs a small to fat rework. And the entire combat class just needs an identity, whether it's fewer iframes, but a really, really large HP pool and some healing to a lot of healing, or whether it is, stackable defense that, stacks when you get hit and not just for one specific type, which I think is again, it's a start, but it's not quite there. Like elasticity, it shouldn't just be physical defense. It should be all defense. It actually shouldn't even be all defense. It should be damage reduction. So 5% decrease of physical damage received? No. It should be 5% decrease of all damage received, can stack up to maximum 80% or 100%. You know why? Because even with native 70%, these characters get completely dumped on. And the thing with combat types that you have to remember is, unlike universals, they have a class that counters them. So even if you gave all combat types a 70% damage reduction, that wouldn't really work against blast types as well as it would against speed and universal. So yeah, this is a rant, obviously. This is something that I felt has been in the game and has been like an ongoing problem for more than, I would say, like pretty much 2 years now, where combat types have consistently been one of the worst classes. Speed types were there, but speed types have come such a long way. And you have characters who they were designed in such a way that it gives the speed class an identity that they can always go back to. Ant-Man wasn't very good right after Endgame, but then he became better as blast types came in to dominate, but were not given ignore defense, or ignore dodge, excuse me. So you can see that there's a really good design interplay there, because speed types have an advantage against blast types. Blast types are extremely oppressive in game modes, but if they're not given ignore dodge, speed types who generally have guaranteed dodge and high dodge, they can counter that. That's a nice design interaction between blast types and speed types. And you see that a lot of speed types have dodge or guaranteed dodge. It's just something that is part of their identity as a class, and it works, and it will always work. It may have certain times where it doesn't work as well. There's certain periods of the game where certain characters are really dominant and they have a lot of ignore dodge. That's going to reduce the effectiveness of speed types, but they will always come back again to either, balance things out or to dominate if they get too strong. Combat types don't have that. They don't have anything like that. They don't have one identity that they can latch onto that's ever going to make them relevant or strong. And they really need that. Universals are like the all-around multi-tool. They're strong everywhere. Blast types have insane damage and insane CC with like time freeze and mind control and stuff like that. Speed types have guaranteed dodge. Combat types have crickets. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let Netmarble know your thoughts as well. Thank you for listening. Appreciate the support on the rant videos. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you later today. Combat class sucks.